Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Sam. I am just coming off of a COVID infection, a late summer COVID infection, but luckily my nose was not affected. I can still smell perfectly. It's not better than before since I took a week off of wearing perfume while I had COVID. And it's been a while since I made a video, so I figured I would make a video about this discovery set I recently got from Labo. This is a discovery set that I selected with 5 fragrances from the City Exclusives lineup. When you go in store, you're able to select the 5 fragrances that you want in your discovery set. So I picked the new one, Myrrhe 55, which is the Shanghai exclusive, Gaiac 10, Baie Rose 26, Cedrat 37, and Aldehyde 44. Ideally, I'd like for all of my videos to be conversations, so if you've smelled any of these or you have thoughts on the Labo City exclusive in general, I'd love to hear them in a comment down below. With that said, let's dive in. I also want to add a quick note here before we dive fully in, and that is about price. Currently, a 100 ml bottle of a mainline Labo scent is priced at $322. A 100 ml bottle of a City exclusive scent is now $515. And I think it's fair to say that for anyone, that is a lot of money to spend on a bottle of perfume.
How much is this, Myrrhe?
It's very expensive.
It's very expensive.
But I want to be really cognizant of not tearing something apart or lowering my appreciation for something just because I personally can't afford to buy a full bottle of it. I think a lot of these are really well-built scents regardless of whether or not they are expensive or cheap. So with that said, I'm going to try to review these fragrances with just the assumption that we all know that they are all very, very expensive. Okay. First up, we're going to talk about the new one, Myrrhe 55, which is the Shanghai City exclusive. And for the purposes of this video, I've sprayed one strip with each of these fragrances a few hours ago, and I'm going to spray a new one now. Also, I want to make sure I give kudos to Labo for finally changing their atomizers. Until recently, Labo had the worst sample atomizers in the whole fragrance industry, and they've recently changed over to these like narrower glass atomizers, which are way better. They actually spray an excellent mist. And they're the same atomizers as used by Jo Malone, which is another Estee Lauder company. Okay, so Labo describes Myrrhe 55 as a chypre, and it gives notes of myrrh, jasmine, patchouli, oud, and musk. To me, this isn't really a chypre, but it's more of like a kind of like an 80s big oriental. But I see why Labo wouldn't want to call it that, especially seeing as it's the Shanghai City exclusive. Smelling it, I find it very interesting just right off the bat. It's much different than most of the other Labos. This is actually quite complex smelling to me. Especially in the opening, I get myrrhe, which is, it's sweet, it's resinous, and it's also kind of aldehydic and fizzy, like it tingles my nose a little bit. It's almost like the smell of cracking open a new Coca-Cola can. But there's also kind of like all these other foodie elements to it, weirdly for me. Like I get cinnamon and other kind of warm spices. And the first day I wore it, I wore 4 spritzes from the store, like from an actual bottle. And for the first hour, I thought I smelled just like a snickerdoodle cookie. I also got in the opening and the mid a big coconut vibe, which I haven't heard anybody mention so far, but smelling it again here on the strip, that is kind of reconfirmed for me. There's like a woody brown, like the stringy coconut coir, C-O-I-R, the stringy stuff that's on the outside of a coconut, but also kind of like that chunky white flesh attached to the shell of the coconut. That's really prominent for me, actually. But then for the rest of the wear, Myrrhe 55 is dominated by an absolutely gigantic jasmine note. And kind of with all of these like spicy oriental elements along with that giant jasmine note, it's just has like monstrous projection. Like it's one of those ones that I'm like almost afraid to spray because I feel like it's a little bit cloying. It also kind of reminds me in that like way that it's oriental and big and has this monster sillage. It kind of reminds me of Baccarat Rouge 540. Not in that they smell similar, but they behave in a similar way. Yeah, as opposed to kind of this like big heart, the dry down is a little bit more forgettable. I don't get any of the oud or the ambergris that's mentioned in the description. To me, it's kind of just like a basic woodiness, although there is like an interesting anise or black licorice facet to it. Anyway, on the whole, I think it's not a bad perfume. It's just really not my style. It's not something I would ever see myself wearing. But I could see it being really pretty on the right person, or kind of like in the right setting. It feels very dressed up and a little bit nighttime to me. So that's my first impression on Myrrhe 55. Okay, next up we're going to talk about Aldehyde 44, which is the Dallas City exclusive. Ooh, okay, so I really love the opening on this one. The Labo describes Aldehyde 44 as an aldehydic floral perfume, and the notes include aldehydes, ambrette, neroli, narcissus, jasmine, tuberose, vanilla, and woody notes. This is probably my second favorite of the samples that I bought, and I don't know what it is, but Aldehyde 44 has this like incredibly sunny and optimistic and wholesome sort of feel about it. It's very, very retro smelling up front because of those aldehydes, and it smells like kind of squeaky clean, and the image it gives me is actually like very, very specific. What I picture is kind of like it's 1975 and you wake up early and you make your bed and you get into the clothes that you laid out the night before, which are like freshly washed and ironed and starched. And then you make yourself breakfast, and it's like half a grapefruit and some cottage cheese and some black coffee. And then you get in your little car and you get on the freeway and you go to work, and you're at work by like 8 a.m. and you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I don't know, that's Aldehyde 44. It's like put together, but not too serious. It's happy and put together. The other thing I like about it is that I think that it could have gone in a direction which would have been like very dour and mature smelling, but underneath the kind of aldehydic opening is this really great like vanilla and tuberose combination, which is, again, it's like super sunny and super inviting and extremely contemporary smelling. And it's all kind of tempered by this like coolness or glassiness from an ambrette note. I just found this scent to be super creative. It smells great. Yeah, I just really, really liked Aldehyde 44. All right, next up is Cedrat 37. Okay, Cedrat 37 is a fresh citrus ginger perfume. The Labo gives notes of citron, ginger, woody notes, musk, and ambergris. Okay, so Cedrat 37 is the Berlin City exclusive. And I'm going to admit up front to basically buying it because I like the name Cedrat. The Cedrat or the citron fruit is a fruit from the citrus family, but it's a non-edible citrus fruit. There's a variety in Asia which is called the Buddha's hand citron, and it looks kind of like a fanciful hand, and it's used in ceremonies in Buddhist temples or as an offering in Buddhist temples. And then there's a whole other variety of citron or cedrat that's used in some denominations of Judaism. It's called an etrog, I think is what it's called in Hebrew, but it's used during the celebration of Sukkot, and it's like a giant citron, I guess, and there's like a whole niche industry dedicated to growing this etrog in Calabria in Italy. And so once a year before Sukkot, all of these like major priests from Israel travel to Italy to inspect and buy the finest cedrats for their religious ceremonies, which I just find to be interesting. Anyway, all that aside, what does it smell like? So to me, Cedrat 37 is like a beautiful lemon ginger tea fragrance, and it dries down to a sweet muskiness. I read one review online that said that this smells kind of like a classy Arnold Palmer, and I kind of have to agree with that. I don't know if there's supposed to be a tea note here. I mean, it's not listed, or if just kind of the combination of lemon and ginger automatically leads my mind to tea. But that's kind of what I get. And here in the dry down, it retains this kind of like lemon, ginger, tea muskiness. I will say that the performance on it was very, very good. It has a really beautiful, like, sparkly quality about it. It's very effervescent. It's very nice. It just, It's not really my style. Ginger is not a note that I'm in love with, and I think it always strikes me as being a little bit too culinary when I smell it in fragrances. But overall, I'd rate Cedrat 37 pretty highly. All right, next up is Baie Rose 26. I got Baie Rose 26 because I'm a rose lover, so this is one that I was really looking forward to trying. The notes given for this one are rose, pink pepper, aldehydes, black pepper, clove, musk, Virginia cedar, and amber. So Baie Rose in French actually translates to pink berries or pink pepper. That's what they call pink pepper. And so this scent is kind of the pink pepper hand in hand with an actual rose. So I thought it was interesting to me from the start, but ultimately it ended up being kind of like one of it was the least favorite of the ones that I tried, certainly. There's a lot of things about it on paper which I should like. It's got this like zingy aldehydic mintiness from the pink pepper. It's got the rose, and the rose here it's like a slightly sweet, slightly fruity, or maybe even kind of like a winey red rose. And it's backed up by like a bunch of other things that I should like that are kind of like cold, spicy in nature, like clove. There's probably like some nutmeg here. And it's all kind of like resting on a mildly sweet amber base. Yeah, but in practice, actually, I don't find this very inspiring at all. It strikes me as being very flat. It's got kind of like a medicinal edge to it, which normally I would really like, but here I don't. And I've worn it on skin, and it just really didn't transform at all either, so I don't know. Baie Rose 26 might just be the bust of the bunch. All right, finally, I'll talk about my favorite from the set. This is Gaiac 10, which is the Tokyo City exclusive. Okay, Gaiac 10 is basically always said to be the most popular of the Labo City exclusive range, and I can definitely see why. It has an exceedingly simple note list. It's Gaiac wood, olibanum, cedar, and according to Labo, there's 4 different kinds of musk. Straight away, I think the opening is pleasant. It has this like campfire element to it. It's all about that like smokiness of the Gaiac. But yeah, in the opening, it's like a smoky, campfirey woodiness with some incense tingling in the background. And it's nice. And then it kind of like goes quiet for a little bit. It's definitely got like a molecular perfume air about it, and that it like comes and goes and you can detect it in wafts. But what is really special about it is like every time I wore it after 4 or 6 or 8 hours, there'd be this moment where it would just like come to life as this incredibly unctuous, like creamy, smoky, salty, woody musk. And it's one of the best musk scents that I've ever tried. It's incredibly cozy and sensual, but also it's a very hard musk to describe. It's not animalic. I don't know, it's woody, salty, and creamy. It doesn't really smell like a human, and it doesn't smell like something you'd want to eat. It's just a really enticing and alluring smell. So I really enjoyed sampling Gaiac 10. I really enjoyed sampling all of them. And if you've tried any of the Le Labo City exclusives, let me know which one is your favorite, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.